Vancouver? You've seen the postcards, right? Gleaming glass towers piercing the sky, majestic mountains framing a sparkling ocean. It's the kind of place that looks like it was designed by a committee of nature photographers and high-end architects. People pay top dollar to live here, to breathe this fresh Pacific air. It's consistently ranked one of the most livable cities in the world. But hold on, take a walk, a real walk beyond the curated tourist paths. You'll see a totally different picture, a stark contrast to that glossy image. It's a tale of two Vancouvers, existing side by side yet worlds apart. And that's the part they don't always put on the brochure. Look closer. On those same streets, nestled in the doorways of expensive boutiques, you see it. People are living on the sidewalks. Tents crafted from tarps and hope form makeshift communities in parks and under bridges. You see individuals with all their worldly possessions crammed into shopping carts, their faces etched with hardship. This isn't a rare sight. It's a daily reality in many parts of the city. The sheer visibility of this struggle is jarring, especially when set against the backdrop of such obvious affluence. It makes you wonder, how can so much wealth and so much despair coexist so openly in the same place? For visitors, this contrast can be a real shock. They come expecting pristine beauty and are confronted with a very human crisis. But for many Vancouverites, it's a grimly familiar landscape. The initial surprise might have faded, replaced by a complex mix of concern, frustration, and sometimes a feeling of helplessness. The visible despair is undeniable. It's in the eyes of the person asking for spare change, in the weary slump of someone trying to find a dry place to sleep. This isn't just about not having a house. It's about a loss of dignity, a constant battle for survival played out in public view. This isn't some minor issue, a few unfortunate souls who slipped through the cracks. No, what Vancouver is facing is a full-blown crisis, a hidden epidemic of homelessness that's becoming less hidden every day. It's a crisis that challenges the city's identity, its values, and its future. We're talking about thousands of people without a safe place to call home in one of Canada's richest urban centers. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, what are we going to do about it? Let's break it down, because understanding is the first step. Trying to count the number of people experiencing homelessness? It's like trying to count raindrops in a storm. It's messy, it's difficult, and you're pretty much guaranteed to miss a few. Or a lot. Official counts, often called point-in-time counts, happen every so often. Volunteers go out. They try to survey people in shelters, on the streets, in encampments. These counts give us a snapshot, a baseline figure. But everyone, and I mean everyone involved in this work, knows these numbers are just the tip of the iceberg, the most visible part of a much larger problem. So, what do these official snapshots tell us? The 2023 Metro Vancouver homeless count, conducted in March of that year, identified 4,821 individuals experiencing homelessness across the region. Within the city of Vancouver itself, that number was 2,420 people. Think about that. Thousands of people. And remember, this was in early 2023. Given the trends, it's highly likely these numbers have only grown since then. These aren't just statistics. Each number represents a human being, a story, a life interrupted by hardship. The scale is already concerning even before we consider who is being missed. The big challenge is hidden homelessness. This includes people couch surfing, staying with friends or family temporarily, living in unsafe or overcrowded conditions, or stuck in institutions because they have nowhere else to go. These individuals often don't show up in the official street counts. Experts estimate the true number of people experiencing some form of homelessness could be significantly higher, perhaps 3 to 5 times the official count. So, while the recorded figures are already alarming, the reality on the ground is likely far more dire, a crisis much deeper than the spreadsheets suggest. Even if we just stick to the official conservative numbers, it's a shocking figure for a city like Vancouver, a city celebrated for its prosperity, its natural beauty, its progressive image. How can a place with so much going for it have thousands of its residents without a fundamental human need, a safe, stable place to live? The numbers, as incomplete as they might be, paint a clear picture of a crisis that demands urgent attention. They tell us that something is fundamentally broken in how we care for our most vulnerable citizens. When people talk about homelessness in Vancouver, one area almost always comes up: the downtown east side, or the DTS. This neighborhood, one of Vancouver's oldest, has long been the epicenter of poverty, addiction, and homelessness in the city. It's often described as Canada's poorest postal code. Walking through parts of the DTS can be an overwhelming experience. It's a concentration of human suffering that is hard to witness and even harder to ignore. It's the most visible manifestation of Vancouver's crisis, a place where the struggle for survival is on public display every single day. What do you see there? You see streets lined with people, many openly using drugs. You see makeshift shelters constructed from tarps and salvaged materials. You see long lines for food banks and social services. There's a pervasive sense of desperation, but also, remarkably, a strong sense of community among residents who look out for one another. The DTS is a complex place, not just a monolith of suffering. It has a rich history and resilient residents, but it is undeniably grappling with immense challenges that are compounded by decades of neglect and poorly designed policies. While the downtown east side is the most concentrated and visible area of homelessness, it's crucial to understand that the problem isn't confined to these few blocks. Not anymore. Homelessness is spreading. You see tent encampments in parks in Kitsilano, along busy streets in Mount Pleasant, and even in quieter suburban areas. The housing crisis and lack of support services are pushing people into homelessness across the entire Metro Vancouver region. The DTES might be ground zero, but the shockwaves of this crisis are being felt everywhere, from the urban core to the outlying communities. It's important to remember that these are not just problem areas. They are neighborhoods where people live. People with histories, families, and dreams, however battered they may be. The DTES, for all its struggles, is also home to a vibrant community of activists, artists, and support workers fighting for a better future. Understanding the reality of places like the DTS without sensationalizing or stigmatizing is key to grasping the depth of the homelessness crisis. It's about seeing the humanity behind the headlines and the statistics. Let's be clear, this isn't a static problem. The homelessness crisis in Vancouver is not getting better, it's actively getting worse. Year after year, the numbers trend upwards. More people are finding themselves without a safe place to sleep. More families are struggling to keep a roof over their heads. This isn't just a feeling or an anecdote. The data, even with its limitations, points to a disturbing escalation. It's a rising tide of human misery that threatens to engulf more and more people if we don't act decisively and effectively. The demand for shelter beds consistently outstrips supply. Shelters are often full, turning people away, especially during harsh weather. New temporary shelters open, and they fill up almost immediately. This tells you something critical. The flow of people into homelessness is outpacing our current ability to provide even the most basic emergency responses. Imagine the desperation of seeking shelter on a cold, rainy Vancouver night, only to be told there's no room. This is a nightly reality for far too many people in this supposedly world-class city. Tragically, it's not just the number of people experiencing homelessness that's rising. The number of deaths among Vancouver's unhoused population is also shockingly high and increasing. Many of these deaths are linked to the ongoing toxic drug crisis, but homelessness itself exacerbates health problems and makes people incredibly vulnerable. These are preventable deaths. Each one represents a systemic failure, a person let down by a society that couldn't or wouldn't provide the support they needed. This grim statistic underscores the life and death urgency of the situation. This escalating crisis creates a pervasive sense of unease and concern throughout the city. Residents see the growing encampments, they hear the stories, they feel the strain. It affects the city's morale, its sense of itself as a caring and compassionate place. The feeling that things are sliding in the wrong direction is hard to shake. Acknowledging this rising tide is the first step. We can't afford to normalize it. We can't afford to look away. The problem is growing, and our response needs to grow even faster and smarter. So, why is this happening? Why are so many people in a wealthy city like Vancouver finding themselves without a home? It's not one single reason, it's more like a perfect storm, a brutal combination of factors that converge to push people over the edge. Think of it like a deadly cocktail of social and economic failures. One of the biggest culprits, no surprise here, is the insane cost of housing. Vancouver is one of the most expensive places to live on the planet. Rents are through the roof, and buying a home? Forget about it for most people. When a basic one-bedroom apartment costs more than what someone earning minimum wage can afford, you have a recipe for disaster. People are spending 50%, 60%, even more of their income just on rent. That leaves almost nothing for food, transportation, or any unexpected expense. A lost job, a medical emergency, a rent increase, any of these can be the final straw that pushes someone from being precariously housed into actual homelessness. The lack of truly affordable housing, not just less expensive luxury condos, is a massive driver of this crisis. Then, layer on top of that the chronic underfunding and lack of access to mental health and addiction services. For decades, governments have talked a good game about supporting people with mental illness or substance use disorders, but the reality on the ground is often long wait lists, insufficient treatment beds, and a lack of integrated care. People struggling with these issues are incredibly vulnerable to homelessness, and once they are on the streets, their conditions often worsen, making it even harder to escape the cycle. It's a tragic feedback loop, and it doesn't stop there. Other factors pour fuel on the fire. Things like unemployment or precarious low-wage work mean people can't earn enough to survive. Poverty, especially child poverty, creates a pipeline into adult homelessness. People aging out of the foster care system without adequate support are at extremely high risk. Systemic discrimination against indigenous peoples, racialized communities, and LGBTQ2S+ individuals also plays a significant role, creating additional barriers to housing and services. It's a complex web, but the outcome is tragically simple. More people left out in the cold. Okay, so it's not like nobody's trying. Governments, municipal, provincial, and federal, they're not just sitting back and watching this unfold, right? They're making announcements, launching programs, spending money. We've seen efforts to build new affordable housing units, though the definition of affordable can be pretty debatable. They've purchased old hotels to convert them into supportive housing. They've funded new temporary shelters, especially during the winter months, to get people out of the extreme cold. There are initiatives aimed at improving mental health and addiction support, at least on paper. They've rolled out modular housing projects which are quicker to build than traditional apartment blocks. There are outreach teams trying to connect with people on the streets and guide them towards services. Some programs focus on rent supplements to help people stay in their current homes. So, yes, there are actions being taken. There are dedicated people working within these systems trying their best to make a difference. But here's the multi-billion-dollar question. Is it enough? And the answer, if you look at the rising numbers of homeless people, is a pretty resounding no. The scale of the problem is just immense, and it consistently outpaces the solutions being offered. Building a few hundred units of affordable housing is great, but what about the thousands still on waiting lists, or the thousands more who will fall into homelessness next year? Not in my backyard or NIMBYism is another huge hurdle. Every time a new shelter or supportive housing project is proposed, there's often fierce local opposition, delaying or even derailing vital projects. This isn't just a logistical problem, it's a societal one. The current approach often feels like putting band-aids on a bullet wound. It's reactive, not proactive. It's dealing with the emergency, but not always addressing the deep systemic causes that we'll get to. While every new shelter bed is a small victory and every person housed is a life potentially saved or stabilized, the overall strategy seems fragmented. It lacks the comprehensive, well-resourced, long-term vision needed to truly turn the tide on this crisis. We need more than just good intentions, we need a fundamental shift in approach and commitment. This crisis isn't just happening to homeless people in some isolated bubble. No, it's happening to Vancouver. It affects everyone, whether you have a secure roof over your head or not. Think about the strain on public services. Emergency rooms in hospitals become de facto shelters for people with nowhere else to go, especially those with complex health needs. Police officers spend a significant amount of time responding to calls related to homelessness, mental health crises, and public disorder, which isn't always the most effective use of their resources. Sanitation crews deal with encampment cleanups. All of this costs taxpayer money that could be invested in solutions. Then, there are the public health implications. People living on the streets are more vulnerable to infectious diseases like hepatitis or tuberculosis, and the lack of sanitation in encampments can create health hazards for the wider community. The ongoing toxic drug crisis, which is deeply intertwined with homelessness, has led to a devastating loss of life and puts immense pressure on healthcare services. Beyond physical health, the visible crisis also impacts the mental well-being of the entire community, creating stress, anxiety, and a sense of a fraying social fabric. Safety perceptions also shift. While people experiencing homelessness are far more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators, visible poverty and untreated mental illness can make public spaces feel less safe or welcoming for some residents. This can lead to businesses suffering, tourists being deterred, and an erosion of the vibrant public life that makes cities thrive. It creates divisions and tensions between housed and unhoused residents, fostering misunderstanding and sometimes animosity, which helps absolutely no one. The sense of community can be damaged when so many are visibly suffering. Ultimately, a city with a massive visible homelessness crisis is a city that isn't living up to its full potential. It impacts Vancouver's reputation on the world stage. It diminishes the quality of life for everyone. It's a constant nagging reminder that despite the beauty and wealth, there are deep societal failings. Ignoring homelessness or wishing it would just go away isn't an option. It's a shared problem that requires shared responsibility and a collective will to find real, lasting solutions for the health and well-being of the entire city. We've talked about the symptoms, the tents, the despair, the overflowing shelters. We've touched on some immediate causes like high rent and lack of mental health support. But now, let's pull back the curtain. Let's talk about the real systemic issues, the deep-rooted problems that created this mess in the first place. These aren't quick fixes. These are fundamental flaws in how our society operates. And until we confront these, we're just going to be playing whack-a-mole with the crisis. First up, the housing market. In Vancouver and many other desirable cities, housing has become less about providing homes and more about generating wealth. It's treated as a commodity, an investment vehicle for global capital. Speculation, property flipping, and policies that favor developers over tenants have sent prices into the stratosphere, completely disconnected from local wages. When your city's housing is primarily a way for rich people to park their money, what happens to the people who just need a place to live? They get squeezed out. It's basic, brutal math. Next, let's talk about social safety nets, or rather, the holes in them. For decades, there's been a systematic underfunding of crucial public services. Mental health care and addiction treatment have been particularly hard hit. We saw a move towards deinstitutionalization, closing down large psychiatric hospitals, which was supposed to be replaced by robust community-based care. Except that community care never fully materialized at the scale needed. So vulnerable people were left without support, often ending up on the streets. This isn't an accident. It's a result of policy choices. Then there's the broader economic picture. For many people, wages have stagnated for years, while the cost of everything, especially housing, has skyrocketed. The rise of precarious work gig economy jobs, part-time contracts with no benefits means less stability and less income for a growing segment of the population. Poverty is a direct pipeline to homelessness. When people can't earn a living wage, when social assistance rates are too low to cover basic needs, it's inevitable that some will fall through the cracks. These are not individual failings, they are systemic economic pressures. So, we've dissected the problem. It's big, it's complex, it's heartbreaking. But despair is not a strategy. What can actually be done? Experts, activists, and people with lived experience have been shouting solutions from the rooftops for years. It's time we listened. One of the most powerful approaches is housing first. The concept is simple. Give people a safe, stable home first, then provide the wraparound supports they need, whether it's for mental health, addiction, job training, or healthcare. It's proven to be more effective and in the long run, often more cost-effective than managing homelessness on the streets. This means we need a massive investment in building truly affordable, supportive, and social housing. Not just a few hundred units here and there, but thousands. We need to protect existing affordable rental stock and explore policies like stronger rent controls to prevent people from being priced out of their homes. It's about recognizing housing as a human right, not just a market commodity. This requires political will, significant public funding, and innovative partnerships to get shovels in the ground and keys into people's hands. It's a foundational piece of the puzzle. Alongside housing, we desperately need to scale up and reimagine our mental health and addiction care systems. This means timely access to evidence-based treatment, harm reduction services like safe consumption sites and safe supply, and long-term recovery support. It means integrating mental health care with primary health care and social services. Some advocate for decriminalizing personal possession of drugs to shift the focus from punishment to health. We also need robust job programs and skills training to help people find meaningful employment and financial stability. This isn't just a job for the government. This crisis touches every single one of us, and solving it requires a collective effort. Why should you care? Because a city where thousands are left behind is a diminished city for everyone. It's about our shared humanity. Individuals can make a difference. Advocate for policy changes. Support organizations working on the front lines. Volunteer your time. Donate if you can. Challenge NIMBY attitudes in your own communities. Most importantly, vote for leaders who are serious about tackling these root causes. Vancouver can be better. It must be better. Let's build a city where everyone has a place to call home.